Okay, I want to talk about the tarot cards. With most of my work, I feel a lot of esoteric material, such as the tarot cards, the Kabbalah tree, the tree of Yggdrasil, and all of the mythologies and the Abrahamic religion. Goes back to this Chronide family that came out of ancient Tyre, Byblos, and Crete. And I feel that a lot of their stories encoded specifically in these tarot cards. Now, there's a lot of people that use tarot cards to predict the future. And they pick certain decks that they feel connected to. Now, for me, I really like this Rider-Waite Smith Tarot Deck. And basically, the tarot deck has 78 cards. And there's 56 lesser arcana. And then there's 22 major arcana. Now, the history of this deck is that a woman named Pamela Coleman Smith did the artistic design of it, and she had hooked up with a guy named Arthur Waite, who she met when they were in the Golden Dawn, and they worked together and created this deck. Now, Pamela was an only child, and she was nicknamed Pixie. She was an artist, an illustrator, and a writer. And after she had done this, some of this esoteric work, she hooked up with a Bram Stoker later on, and worked with him. But she never married, and she had received a little bit of an inheritance. Here's her from Bram Stoker's Lair of the White Worm, one of her illustrations. But she ended up able to buy a small home and rent it out to elderly priests and survive. But at the end, unfortunately, she was penniless when she died, and they sold off her belongings at auction to pay off the bills. But her work survives today in this deck, which is public. It is now, the imagery is in public domain. But to me, I see a lot of ancient mythology encoded in this deck, and let me tell you why. Well, first of all, tarot cards go way back, and the cards that we use today for playing cards were a form of these tarot cards. Now, the ancient people divided the world up into elements, air and fire and water and earth, and then spirit would be the fifth. These tarot cards will represent that. Now, to me, wands represents the element of fire. And the sword, or swords, represents the element of air. And the pentacle represents the element of earth. And the cup represents the element of water. Now, when I look at the emperor, to me, that is clearly Zeus. And I've done a previous video talking about the significance of the pomegranate and Zeus, and explained everything on this tarot card. The Empress would be Hera. There she is with the roses, and the female symbol, and her crown, and her scepter. Coming down to the kings and the queens, well, we'll start over here with the element of fire, wands. Now, this king to me would be Apollo. You can see the iguanas. They're elements of fire, salamanders. And then this would be Artemis. There she is with her black cat. And, she was a queen in her own right. Okay. Even though mythology says she never married, if you go into Nordic mythology, she does. Okay. This would be the element of water, and it could represent Oceanus. It could represent Poseidon, although the ancient writings indicate that they associated the element of water with Oceanus, the Titan Oceanus, and his wife. Okay. And then the sword, to me, is always like a war and strife. Element of the air. You can see in there the butterflies behind him. That would be Mars or Aries. And his lover was Aphrodite. And there she is with the butterfly. You know, what do you see all the time now in Hollywood? She's the goddess of love and war. She took the credit for what she did in her time as the daughter of Zeus, but there was a previous Aphrodite who was a child of Uranus. And that was the equivalent of the Egyptian Hathor, who was the Eye of Ra. And she was a war goddess. So there you get your combination of love and war. And then the pentacles very clearly would, the king would be Osiris. He has the bulls, he has the grapevine. He is the god of the earth, so to say, and or the harvest, whatever you want to call it. And then this would clearly be his wife, Isis Ariadne. And look at her headgear. It's very similar to the headgear of that you see with Isis, and she's got the green robe. And on her throne, there's a child, but there's also a goat, because her husband was also associated with goats as well as bulls. And she also has the rabbit for fertility. But she's sad. See, look at her. This is a sad woman because her husband was murdered and she had to fight off Set, and there's the child behind her. Okay, now there's always a priestess and a priest. Generally, the woman is always shown. The woman is always shown in blue. And she's got the moon at her foot. She's got the headgear like Isis, a cross, the Torah in her hands, you know, blue and white, a Kabbalah tree behind her, and the pillars of Boaz and Jacob. These are the priestesses. It's opposite of the woman in red, who is a promiscuous woman. The man priest, the Hierophant, he has the keys, and he is always shown in red with some blue. And he's got the triple crown, and he's giving the blessing that you'll see Zeus give. And I believe that's the cross of Lorraine. I'd have to look that up, that he's holding. Lots of crosses, and the monks behind him. This is like the Pope. But they've killed the priestesses off pretty much, or made them become nuns. You'll see a lot of nuns with blue and white. But these are the priestesses and priests of Zeus and Dionysus, Osiris, and Isis, Ariadne, and that whole bloodline. Now let's talk about some of the other cards. Well, the opposer to Zeus was Prometheus, as well as some of the other people he had to fight off, like the Titan Typhon and all of his enemies. But the main and last opponent would have been Set, who was Prometheus, Loki, the trickster, the devil, Satan. He has his own hand sign. You see it? He's got horns. He inverts the pentagram because the devil and the trickster always inverts what Zeus or God does. And he's giving fire to the man, and he's giving the woman already has the fruit because she was given the task of agriculture, and they're chained. Now let's look at some of these other ones. Justice may be a different goddess. It could be Athena. It's hard to tell. The World and the Wheel of Fortune. These are zodiacs. That's an Ouroboros, and they both have constellations. Let's get that here. They both have the same constellations in their corners. Okay, that would be Orion, Aquila, and then Taurus, and Leo. So you got the same thing here. You got the man, the bird, the bull, and the lion. And up here is this fox, like Satan type, and the snake for Zeus, and the Pharaoh's type Sphinx here. This looks like a woman, but it may not be. It may be a hermaphrodite. It could, you know, it could be representative of the bloodline that created this whole zodiac system and how they embedded their stories into your calendar system. Okay, now a few more of these major arcanas. When I look at strength, it reminds me of Demeter. When I look at temperance, it's hard to say. You know, this is like an angel with this, you know, the 1 foot in the water, 1 foot out, and it's got the triangle. This one's a little tougher. I'd have to think about this a little bit more, but somehow that's, you know, it goes along with the as above, so below, duality type thing. The tower and death always, you know, represent destruction, and I've, in some of my material, I've talked about the death of Hyperion and his children, and afterwards there's a great storm. So you see the lightning bolts in there. Lightning bolts usually are to punish the wicked. Here comes death to change the order. You see the dead king. Then now you have the Pope with his getting rid of the rule of the royalty and the rule of the, now you go into the rule of the church, but they're basically taking over the same system. It's just a different group that has the knowledge and the control. Now, the moon reminds me of Horus. There's a scorpion in there. You've got a dog and a coyote howling at the moon. The moon is a female symbol, so they have to be careful. That's when Set was trying to kill Horus, and Isis had to hide him. The sun is very clearly Zagreus, and his reincarnation is Osiris, the Sun King, on the white horse, triumphant. The magician to me appears to be Hermes, as above, so below. He's got the female symbol of the rose, the male symbol of the lily. He's got the 4 elements and the infinity symbol, as things are cyclical. And let's see, we'll go with this chariot. Has all kind of duality, the black and the white. An androgen type person. You can't tell if it's a male or a female. Looks like it's a 8-pointed star. Got all kinds of hexagrams and faces on her shoulder. And now that is a warrior. So this may represent all the wars that they have to go through, trying to be good, but sometimes they have to be bad. The Lovers is an interesting card. It is the exact opposite of what is shown in the Devil card. Now let me bring that up. Let's move some of this over so I can give you a good idea of this. Now, as I've already told you, the Devil is Prometheus, but look at this. You've got, in this one, the woman has the grape and the man has the fire, and they're chained, and, you know, Satan is giving his hand sign. But here you have a very beautiful angel with the sun behind him. In the tree is a snake. The woman is associated with fruit and farming. The man has a tree of fire behind him. And in between is a mountain, like Mount Ida. Now, if you get into the story of Pandora's box, Zeus is the hero. You know, he is trying to get back at Prometheus for introducing blood sacrifice and burnt offerings. And he introduces this intelligent woman into the bloodline to undo what Prometheus was doing. And they're chained, they're free, and they're innocent. And they're, you know, the snake is not shown as evil. So this goes along with mythology, and so does this. And that is opposite of some of the Abrahamic religion to a certain degree. So this would be like Prometheus, and this would be like Zeus and the woman and the man. Okay, now the last two of the major arcana, we have Judgment, and it's a woman, a man, and the child, and they're coming out of the graves, and they're triumphant, and the angel is triumphant, and they have their cross, and it's just like the story of Horus being triumphant, and that bloodline being triumphant over the bloodline of Set. And lastly, we have the Hermit, and in his lantern is a, I guess that would be a hexagram, as the giver of light. And that hexagram goes back to the star of Remphan, or it's the star of Chronide, Saturn, and his bloodline. Now, it's not a good thing from what I know of what Saturn did. He introduced some of the human sacrifice, but his son Zeus tried to stop that and put an end to it. But it's, all of the Chronide bloodline contributed to knowledge and the mysteries. And, here you have this hermit with his staff. He's old, and only one of his eyes is showing, just like Odin, who is also Zeus. So here he is giving the knowledge and the light and the enlightenment, because he's a Chronide. And so did his sisters and brother and all the rest of them to the human race and to their descendants. So that's my analysis. You also have this minor arcana, which people use as they're trying to give predictions, and they represent different aspects of life and struggles or triumphs and sorrows and happiness and joy. The human experience, pretty much. So that is my analysis of the tarot, and I believe that the same story of this Chronide family is encoded in the Kabbalah tree and in the tree of Yggdrasil, all of our mythologies, all of the Abrahamic religions, the symbols, the ancient statues and temples and so on. But there is a story before them as well, and it is about a matriarchy, and that is something I'm trying to research, but that is not shown here from what I can see. Okay, so that's it for my analysis of the Rider-Waite Smith Tarot Deck. Thank you.